Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are doing something a little different. We aren't talking about the latest, shiny productivity app or some complex AI that promises to write your emails for you.
No, we're talking about something much more fundamental.
Exactly. Something that's frankly pretty broken in the daily lives of most professionals. We're talking about the calendar.
The calendar, that grid that dictates where you are, who you're with, and usually why you're so completely exhausted at the end of the day.
That is it. We're diving into the concept of the meeting audit. And I know what that sounds like to a lot of people. It sounds like, administrative housekeeping.
Like cleaning your room?
Yeah, like organizing your desktop icons. But based on our deep dive today into Felix Römer's latest article for SmartKeys, this isn't about tidiness. It's about stopping a massive financial bleed.
I'm really glad you framed it that way right off the bat, because when people hear meeting audit, they think, oh, sure, I'll just, delete a few recurring invites.
And call it a day.
Right. But Römer frames this as a strategic business necessity. He uses this phrase that I absolutely love. It really sticks with you. The slow accretion of inefficiency.
Accretion. That's a great word. It sounds almost geological, like barnacles building up on the hull of a ship until it can barely move.
That is the perfect analogy. It's not one bad decision that ruins productivity. I mean, no one sets out to destroy the workday. No manager wakes up and says, my goal today is to waste everyone's time.
Of course not.
It's this gradual layering. Think about how a company grows. You have legacy habits, how things used to be done. Then new people join, and they bring their habits from their old jobs.
And then a new project starts, so you add a weekly sync.
Right. And then the project ends, but does the sync end?
Almost never. It just stays there. People keep showing up, I think, out of politeness more than anything.
Exactly. It becomes a zombie meeting. The project is dead, but it's still walking on your calendar, eating up brains. And before you know it, you have days filled with back-to-back sessions where no actual work gets done.
And work becomes the thing you do at 5:30 p.m.
Or after the kids go to bed. Or on a Sunday morning.
I think you just described the lived reality of almost every single person listening to this right now. We've all had that feeling of looking at the clock, the day is over, you're mentally drained, but you haven't actually produced a single tangible thing.
You've just existed in Zoom boxes.
Yes.
That is the crisis. And this deep dive is based on the article, Meeting Audit. Reclaim your calendar by cutting unnecessary meetings. And our mission really is to walk you through a very specific step-by-step process to stop that bleeding.
But, and this is the key, without destroying collaboration.
That's the tricky part, isn't it?
It is. That's the fear. If I stop meeting, I stop working. Or if I'm not in the room, I don't matter. But let's look at the data first, because sometimes we think, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just bad at time management.
Right.
But Römer brings some receipts here that suggest the system itself is broken.
He does. And the numbers are validating, but also terrifying if you care about efficiency. The research in the article notes that 45% of gatherings serve no purpose.
45%, so nearly half.
Nearly half. I mean, imagine if you were a manufacturing company and half the cars coming off the line didn't start, you'd be out of business in a month.
Instantly.
But in the knowledge economy, because time feels invisible, we just accept it, and it gets worse. 71% of senior managers view these sessions as unproductive.
Wait, 71%? These are the people driving the strategy. These are the most expensive people in the building.
Exactly. They are supposedly the captains of the ship, and they feel like the majority of their collaborative time is wasted. It's a massive disconnect.
So why do we do it? If everyone hates it, if the leaders think it's a waste and the employees are burned out, why is the calendar still full?
It's structural. That's the key insight. It's rarely malicious. People aren't trying to waste time. They're trying to stay aligned. But the article points out that these recurring slots just quietly consume focus, and that leads to this concept of fragmentation.
Okay, let's double-click on fragmentation, because I feel like this is even more damaging than just the lost hour. It's about what happens between the meetings, right?
Absolutely. So let's say you have a meeting from 9:00 to 10:00, then another one at 11:00. In theory, you have an hour in between. You should be able to get work done.
But you don't.
In reality, what happens?
In reality, you check your email, you grab a coffee, maybe you answer a Slack message, and then you start mentally prepping for the 11 o'clock.
Precisely. You never actually drop into deep work. You can't tackle a complex strategic problem or write code or design something brilliant in a 45-minute sliver between calls. Your day ends up looking like Swiss cheese.
Full of holes, but no solid blocks of sustenance.
You're busy, but you're not effective.
That visual of the Swiss cheese day is painfully accurate. So let's pivot to the solution. We've admired the problem enough. The article outlines a meeting audit. How is this different from just, scanning my calendar on a Friday and canceling stuff I don't like?
Well, a true meeting audit is a project. It has to be treated with that kind of rigor. Römer emphasizes that it must be time-bound.
Okay.
You don't want this to be a permanent state of flux where people are constantly wondering if their meetings are happening. He suggests a timeline of about 1.5 quarters. You set a scope, you execute, and you finish.
So a real commitment. And what exactly are we auditing? Every single interaction.
No, you have to be surgical. You exclude the ad hoc stuff, the, hey, do you have 5 minutes chats? You exclude external client meetings because you don't control those. You are hunting for one specific prey, the recurring internal meeting.
The weekly stand-up, the monthly all-hands, the Project X sync.
Exactly. Those are the barnacles. They're the ones that sit there week after week, whether there's anything to talk about or not.
So how do we start? Just open Outlook and stare at it.
You need to treat your calendar like a data set. The article recommends a simple spreadsheet. You capture specific fields for every recurring meeting: the name, category, purpose, frequency, duration, number of participants.
Okay, standard stuff so far.
But there's one more metric that is usually the smoking gun. You add a column for, does an agenda exist?
Oof. I'm visualizing my calendar right now, and if I'm honest, that column is looking pretty empty for a lot of my recurring syncs.
It usually is. And that's a massive red flag. No agenda often means no clear purpose. It's just a habit. But once you have this map, you do a calculation that changes everything. You calculate the meeting cost.
I love this part because it makes the invisible visible. Walk us through the math, because this is the real light bulb moment.
It's a financial reality check. You take the average hourly salary of the people in the room, you multiply it by the meeting length, and you multiply that by the number of participants.
Okay, let's play this out. Say you have a weekly team update. It's an hour, 10 people in the room. Let's be conservative and say the average loaded cost per person is $100 an hour.
Right. So that's $1,000 for 1 hour.
Which doesn't sound too bad for a company until
you multiply it. You multiply it. It's weekly. So that's $4,000 a month. That's roughly $50,000 a year. For a status update where people mostly say, I'm working on what I was working on last week.
Wow. $50,000.
Exactly. Think about it. If you went to your CFO and said, I need $50,000 for a new software tool, they would grill you. They'd want an ROI analysis, a business case.
Of course.
But if you say, I'm inviting 10 people to talk for an hour a week, nobody blinks. It's treated as free.
That is a massive paradigm shift. It stops being time, which feels infinite, and starts being budget, which we all know is finite.
Precisely. Seeing that dollar sign attached to a calendar invite is the catalyst. It gives you permission to be ruthless.
Okay, so we've got this spreadsheet. We're looking at these $50,000 line items. Now what? Step 2. Prioritize, act, and replace. How do we decide what stays and what goes?
Well, you don't attack them one by one. You group them by category and stakeholder. This helps you see patterns. You might realize, wait a minute, we have a marketing sync, a brand update, and a campaign review, all with the same 6 people.
Right. It's a pattern problem, not 3 separate meeting problems.
Exactly. Consolidate. But for every single recurring invite, you have to ask 2 fundamental questions. First, what is the purpose? And second, who really needs to attend?
Really is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
It is, because usually we invite people to be nice or so they don't feel left out. But that kindness is costing the company thousands of dollars.
So in the article, Römer lists an action menu. It's not just a binary keep or kill.
Right. It's a spectrum. You have PEEP for vital meetings. You have needs investigation for the ones you don't even know what they're for. Then evaluation, improved, cancel, or even new. It gives you a vocabulary to classify everything.
I want to talk about cancel because that's the scary one. In a corporate environment, there's this fear of the void. If I cancel the weekly update, how will I know what's going on?
That is the #1 barrier. It's professional FOMO, fear of missing out. If I'm not in the room, am I out of the loop? But the source material is very clear. You don't just create a void. You replace the meeting with an alternative.
So what does that replacement look like? If we aren't talking, how are we communicating?
You move from synchronous to asynchronous.
Let's define that for everyone.
Sure. Synchronous means we all have to be in the same place at the same time to transfer information. Asynchronous means the communication happens, but we all engage with it on our own schedules.
Got it.
So if the purpose of the meeting is just to share information, here are the sales numbers, here is the project status, you do not need a meeting. That is a waste of synchronous time.
So you replace it with what?
A Slack channel update, a ticket in Jira or Asana, a written entry in a shared knowledge base. The information still flows, but I can read it at 9.15 between tasks, and you can read it at 2.30.
You're decoupling the information from the time slot.
Exactly. And here's the hidden benefit. Asynchronous communication forces clarity. You can't just ramble in a Slack post the way you can in a meeting. You have to write it down. It creates a record.
That makes sense. But okay, we can't cancel everything. We still need to collaborate and make tough decisions. So let's talk about step 3. Upgrading what remains. How do we make sure the meetings we keep are worth that 50 grand price tag?
This is where we move from cutting to improving. The article outlines a set of golden rules. Think of them as the gatekeepers for your calendar.
What's the first rule?
Purpose. And not a vague purpose. It must state the decision that's required and what success looks like up front.
So chat about Project X is illegal.
Chat about Project X should be illegal, yes. It has to be decide on Q3 budget allocation for Project X. Specificity is the driver of efficiency.
Okay, rule number 2.
Preparation. Agendas and materials must be circulated 24 hours ahead of time.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate. 24 hours. In a fast-paced startup, that feels like a luxury.
It feels like a luxury, but it's actually a necessity. Think about it. If you have highly paid executives sitting in a room and the first 15 minutes are spent with everyone reading a slide deck silently.
Oh, that is the worst. Being read to like a kindergarten.
Exactly. You are just burning money. Everyone should arrive, read in, and ready to debate. The meeting is for the discussion, not the consumption of information.
Fair point. And the final rule.
Outcomes. Every session has to end with recorded decisions, action owners, and a brief summary. If you talk for an hour and don't write down what happens next, the meeting didn't happen. It was a social hour.
I want to circle back to the who needs to attend part. The article mentions a specific rule from Jeffrey Sullivan.
Ah, yes, the 8 or fewer rule. He suggests limiting decision meetings to 8 attendees.
Why 8? Is that arbitrary?
No, it's rooted in behavioral science. The logic is, once you go beyond that number, you inevitably get low participation. It becomes a lecture. People start checking emails. If you want a decision, keep the group small enough that everyone has to participate.
But then we run into that inclusivity issue again. If we only invite 8 people, aren't we excluding the rest of the team?
That's a delicate balance, but the recommendation is the core plus observer model. You invite the decision makers to the core. Everyone else, the people who just need to know the outcome, can provide async feedback beforehand, or they can just read the summary later.
So you don't need to watch the sausage being made to enjoy the dinner.
That's a great way to put it. And honestly, most people are perfectly happy to read a 3-bullet summary of a decision rather than sitting through an hour of debate. It respects their time more.
I like that framing. So we've audited, we've cut, we've upgraded. Why does this matter strategically, beyond just getting an hour back?
Let's look at the case study in the text, the project manager, Mei Wong. She ran this audit, the headline result. She cut 3 hours of meetings per week, a 27% drop.
That's significant. That's half a day back every week.
But the more important number is the shift in quality. Her high-value time, deep work strategy rose by 53%, and her low-value time fell by 48%.
That is a massive productivity swing. It's not just about doing less, it's about doing more of the right things.
Exactly. And if you multiply that across an entire organization, the strategic implication is speed. The article argues this helps a business stay ahead by increasing the speed of decision-making. Here's a quote. Define the decision before you start and you have the follow-up.
That is powerful. Slow decision-making kills companies.
It does. When you aren't bogged down in back-to-back meetings, you can actually execute. And it creates a cultural shift from a culture of attendance to a culture of outcomes.
And I imagine that helps with that psychological safety we mentioned.
Precisely. It removes the pressure to be everywhere at once. It tells your team, we value your output more than your presence in a Zoom square.
Okay, so let's say a listener does all this. The calendar looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But we all know how entropy works. The meetings, they always creep back in.
You are right. Without governance, entropy always wins. The article warns about this. You need tactics for maintenance. You can't just audit once and forget it.
What are some of those tactics?
One is establishing no meeting days. This has become popular for a reason.
I love a good no meeting Wednesday.
But it has to be enforced. It creates a sanctuary for deep work. Another tactic is setting clear guidelines for length. Make the default 25 minutes instead of 30, or 50 instead of an hour.
The speedy meetings setting.
Exactly. It allows for breaks. It allows for biology. And you can use analytics tools. The article mentions things like FlowTrace, Fellow, Clockwise.
Like a Fitbit for your corporate health.
That's a perfect analogy. If you see the meeting load creeping back up, you know it's time for another audit. It's a hygiene practice.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Before we sign off, what is the one thing a listener can do right now, today?
If you do one thing tomorrow, do this. Look at your calendar for the very next recurring meeting you have. Open the invite and ask yourself one question. Is the decision we need to make written in the invite?
And if it's not?
If it's not, you have two choices. Cancel it or restructure it immediately. Send a note to the organizer and say, hey, just to clarify, the decision we need to make in this session is X. If you can't fill in that X,
Don't have the meeting.
don't have the meeting.
Simple, brutal, but effective.
It cuts through the noise immediately.
Well, there you have it. You don't have to be a victim of your calendar. You can reclaim it, but you have to treat it like a strategic asset, not just a place to store Zoom links.
Absolutely. It's about making space for the work that actually matters.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. We hope this deep dive helps you find that space in your own work week.
And if you want the full blueprint, the spreadsheets, the formulas, all of it, you really need to see the source material.
Yes, definitely. If you want to master this process, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss future insights on the future of work. We highly encourage you to read Felix Römer's full article. The link is waiting for you right now in the show notes. Go check it out, run that audit, and get your time back. Thanks for listening.